Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Cat Shorts as we take big ideas of the Christian faith and shrink them down into small bite-sized packages as we're walking through Martin Luther's small catechism. We started a conversation last time that's going to lay the groundwork for talking about what baptism and communion are all about. And those are big topics, so we're going to take a little bit of time to sort of get ourselves ready and back into the conversation. So grab your Martin Luther hat or your 16th century reformer equivalent if you got one, and let's have a little bit of conversation. We said last time that there are times in human life where our words have power, where it's not just the empty noise in the background or empty promises that we are used to having made to us anymore, but where words can actually do things, like the sentence, I forgive you, or I promise you, or a judge declaring you not guilty, or something like that. There are moments where our words actually have power, okay? And I want to suggest that's sort of where we start our conversation about what happens in the waters of baptism, which come along with the word, and what happens at the table of Holy Communion, which comes with the story, the words and the promise of Jesus too. And I want to suggest that where the church lives, where the followers of Jesus live, is in this space here of mystery, where things actually meaningfully happen through ordinary objects, but that are different on the one hand from metaphors and on the other hand from magic. I want to suggest that all of our conversation about what baptism means and what Holy Communion means is somewhere here in this middle spot, which is mystery. So let's talk about each of these over here. Metaphor on the one hand. When you were in grade school or maybe in junior high school English class, some teacher taught you about figures of speech like similes and metaphors, right? So I might say, oh my goodness, I've got a kink in my back because my bed is a rock. That's just a plain old metaphor, right? I don't actually sleep on a rock. I've got a mattress, but I'm saying to you, my mattress is very hard, and it was in that way like a rock, and so I'm just using the word rock to compare to my mattress. But nobody thinks that I actually sleep on a pile of stones, right? On the other hand, magical thinking, in all the fairy tales or fantasy TV shows, is I said the right magic spell and I turned the bed into a rock, right? Or the pumpkin becomes a carriage, or the mice become footmen for a Cinderella. I mean, you know how that works. One thing turns into something else. And when we talk about what happens in baptism, when we talk about what happens at communion, we're not talking about magic or metaphor, at least from our tradition, from Luther's standpoint. And this is an important piece, that when we talk about the sacraments, we're saying something more than just an interesting image or object lesson or illustration or metaphor is happening. On the other hand, we are called to avoid magical thinking, that magic things happen, right? Like we said last time, the words I love you are powerful words if they are spoken by somebody who actually loves you. But if you just draw, say, with sidewalk chalk on the pavement, the words I love you, there's no power to that if you're just happening upon that, and the words without a speaker who means them don't have power. But when there is someone who means the words, there is something powerful, mysterious even, that can be conveyed through ordinary language or through common stuff like, say, water or bread or wine. Or let me offer this as an additional example. Let's talk about my ring. This is my ring that I was given when I was confirmed. So when I was in 8th grade, it used to be my father's ring, and he gave it to me. And it is, for me, a sign of my father's love and care for me. Now, you can't separate out the love. I can't peel it out or smelt it or melt it down and get the love to be extracted from it. This was given to me as a gift of love. It's not given for me because it's useful for anything else. It's not something I can eat, and it's not meaningful clothing that would keep me warm, and it's not about its cash value. And as you can see, in some ways it's pretty common. It's been beaten up enough over the years just from sheer use. It's kind of bent out of circular shape. But in this ring, through the giving it to me, there's something meaningful. There's love that was given to me here. Love that was given completely as a gift. It wasn't really a reward or conditional as long as I promised to be well behaved. It was simply a gift from Father to Son as this sign of, because you are my son, you belong, and this is a gift for you. You can't separate out the love or that meaning. It's there every time I look at it, every time I see it, every time I even just feel it on my finger. There's this physical, visible reminder that's there. And something meaningful happened that was conveyed by this ring that wouldn't be conveyed by just an ordinary piece of gold you might buy from a broker or something like that. It's not that it's a precious metal. It's simply that this came from my Father with a particular meaning, particular gift, with a particular message of love that comes along with it now. And something like that, I want to suggest, is what happens when we gather around the font at Holy Communion. Something like that is what happens when we gather around the table at Holy Communion. That this isn't transformed into something else. This didn't stop being a ring and become instead an invisible spiritual symbol of my Father's love for me. But the love is somehow there in this physical thing that I can see and touch and feel. It's there, but it's not separable. There's something mysterious about that. And I want to suggest something like that is what happens when we celebrate the sacraments. In the waters of baptism, which we'll talk about more next time, and also then when we get to talking about Holy Communion, we're talking about something real, something meaningful, something solid that is touchable, tangible, real, and sensible, and that is more than just a metaphor, more than just, oh, well, this is meant to represent. This is just a figure of speech. We believe something happens when we're baptized. Something happens when we are gathered at the table. And yet it's not magical in the sense that the water at Holy Baptism could be taken out from the baptismal font and used to pour on your vegetable garden to make your tomatoes grow bigger, or that you could bury the bread from Holy Communion in the ground, to like protect or ward off evil spirits. It's not magic, but it's more than a metaphor. It is something like mystery. So I want to invite you to live in that space today. We'll have more conversation next time around about, in particular, what happens in baptism. But that idea that there are some gifts that are given where there is meaning that comes in the giving that you can't peel out or separate out anymore. It's there permanently affixed to this physical thing. But the physical thing on its own doesn't have the value. It's because the story and the love and the promise that come with it. Join us for more conversation here next time on Cat Shorts.